we start in Nigeria, where the Minister of State for Petroleum, Ibe Kachikwu, has allayed fears that the government plans to scrap the country's oil monopoly. Now, the Nigeria National Petroleum Corporation is, of course, the monopoly. In the past week, we've seen Nigerian media has been awash with the reports that the NNPC will be dissolved and, of course, replaced with a new national oil company.
What we've done is to give out what we call draft policies for conversations with all stakeholders, private sector, public sector. Is going to go to the assembly. And even the report didn't say they will scrap NNPC. I think they have been sensational. What they said was that you have a new national oil company in place of NNPC. Those are recommendations. But this is what is already in the PIB. So it's nothing really new. All we might have done is deepen the structure so that it delivers on what we're looking for. So there's no such thing, and it's not even government position yet. It's a draft policy for debate. It's got to go to the Federal Executive Council, maybe accepted or shut down. It's got to go to the Assembly, maybe accepted or shut down. But my ministerial team, obviously as part of our policy development, putting out a draft policy on oil, draft policy on gas, draft PIB for executive arm. So we're churning up all these policies, but they will have to go through engagements. So it's a bit, one, I think they're very confidential documents, and I don't think the press should be giving the kind of sensational headlines that they're attracting. It's creating more confusion, frankly. They should let the debates happen, and they should let the Federal Executive Council debate and decide what they want, but certainly not scrapping an NNPC.
Let's get some more on this. Deji Badmus now joins us in Lagos. Deji, as always, welcome to the show. Now, of course, as we heard the minister there, he said the NNPC has not been scrapped. Now, give us some insight into the major proposals in this draft policy that we're talking about, and of course, how they will change the status quo in Nigeria's oil sector, such as, of course, the inefficiencies and unaccountability in the NNPC. Going forward, what can we expect?
Well, first, let's talk about the NNPC. As you heard the minister said that NNPC will not be scrapped. But what we have read from that draft policy is that NNPC will cease to function as we know it today. I mean, today, the NNPC is both a policy-making body and a regulator in the oil industry, as well as a player, as a matter of fact. But with the restructuring, I mean, with the draft policy now, what we understand would happen is that NNPC will be restructured and somewhat unbundled, if you like, into 5 separate entities that will be commercially driven now. And that, of course, as the minister said, there's a new national oil company that will be coming to replace NNPC. And so NNPC will not function as we used to know it today, and that NNPC will eventually become basically a commercial entity and probably listed in the stock market. But of course, as the minister said, it's still a confidential document. Another major thing, another major highlight in that draft policy is the country's refinery. Uche, as you know, Nigeria has a serious challenge with maintaining the refineries. What is being proposed in the draft policy is that there will be a transition period now within which these refineries will be made to become viable, begin to make some profit, and then they will be either privatized or concessioned. And the depots now that is being run, these depots originally were owned by these refineries but handed over to a company now known as the PPMC. We understand these depots will now return to the refineries, but most importantly, these refineries will either be sold out or be concessioned. And for those that are not doing well at all, the government plans to just shut them down. So these are some of the major highlights in that in the draft policy. Of course, there's also the issue of the whole idea of automatic renewal of mining licenses. I'm talking about oil mining licenses now, right, that you are not going to have anything like automatic renewal of licenses. It's going to be based on performance this time and not automatic anymore.
Well, Deji, of course, as you mentioned, part of the plan is to list the NNPC on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Now, how will this change NNPC's current mandate if it functions, of course, more as a private entity going forward? And what sort of structure are they suddenly looking at?
Well, first is what has been proposed is that the government will still retain a majority share in the NNPC, but that you'll have private individuals now coming to buy into the NNPC. That will definitely change the mandate of the NNPC, because today the NNPC is basically a state organ, and so if it is listed in the stock exchange, it basically becomes a private entity, basically becomes a limited liability company. And so, you know, for instance, this whole idea, I mean, for a very long time now, Nigerians believe that corruption is quite endemic in the NNPC, and that governments in the past had actually run NNPC like a cash cow, where the president can actually order the GMD of NNPC to provide money at any time. But you're not going to have that kind of thing anymore. I mean, this is going to be a business venture where, of course, it will maintain a balance sheet, and of course, it will have shareholders and what have you. So you wouldn't have a situation where the government will have a total and complete control over the NNPC. So what we're going to see is we're going to see a limited liability company that will be basically driven to make profit and make profit for its shareholders.
And of course, this draft policy is yet to pass through the National Assembly. Well, many thanks, Deji, for those insights. Deji Badmus joining us there in Lagos.